Tucked beneath the relentless sun of the Arabian Peninsula, a region historically entrenched in religious, cultural, and political significance, a startling discovery has sent tremors through the scientific and theological communities alike. In a remote part of Saudi Arabia, a group of independent atheist researchers, working quietly outside the bounds of institutional backing, have unearthed something that challenges long-standing narratives about human civilization and possibly even our species' evolutionary story. For decades, archaeologists have explored the vast deserts and rocky outcrops of Saudi Arabia in search of early human settlements. But this latest find was so unexpected, so jarringly contradictory to prevailing academic assumptions, that it has left many scientists reeling, not in celebration, but in sheer disbelief. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. At the core of this scientific upheaval lies an intricate network of subterranean chambers discovered beneath the Najd Plateau. Long overlooked due to its barren and seemingly unremarkable terrain, this area was chosen by the atheist-led expedition precisely because of its obscurity. Using ground-penetrating radar and satellite imaging technologies, the team detected anomalous formations below the surface. Excavation revealed what can only be described as an underground metropolis. Massive stone corridors, perfectly symmetrical walls, and chambers adorned with etchings of humanoid figures. But what truly set this discovery apart were the artifacts found within. Tools, carvings, and skeletons that predate any known human civilization by tens of thousands of years. More baffling still, carbon dating and isotopic analysis place these remains well outside the expected evolutionary timeline. Initial estimates dated some of the skeletal remains to approximately 400,000 years ago, a timeline that flies in the face of what is currently accepted about the migration of Homo sapiens out of Africa. These individuals exhibited anatomical structures that were neither purely Neanderthal nor fully modern human. They bore traits from both and then some that were seen nowhere else in the fossil record. This prompted speculation that these remains might represent a previously unknown branch of hominins, one that developed cultural and architectural sophistication in a region thought to have been largely inhospitable at the time. The implications were staggering. If true, it could rewrite not only human history, but the very foundation of evolutionary science. Even more confounding was the linguistic aspect of the findings. Inside the largest chamber, what may have functioned as a place of governance or ritual, a stone tablet inscribed with a complex symbolic script was discovered. The script bore no resemblance to cuneiform, hieroglyphs, or any known proto-writing system. It appeared structured, consistent, and deliberate. Efforts to decode the symbols are still underway, but the researchers noted recurring patterns that hint at mathematical principles and perhaps a primitive form of astronomy. If these interpretations hold, it would suggest that this unknown civilization possessed not just physical prowess in engineering, but also an intellectual framework far more advanced than its time would allow. What truly ignited controversy, however, was the absence of any religious symbols in the entire subterranean complex. No iconography, no idols, no tombs for divine figures. Only utilitarian spaces, abstract art, and depictions of celestial bodies. This glaring omission was not lost on observers. In a region where religious belief is deeply embedded in both cultural identity and governance, the idea of a thriving prehistoric society that functioned entirely outside a religious framework is not only provocative, but incendiary. The atheist-led nature of the research team added fuel to the fire. Critics argued that their findings were being interpreted through a deliberately secular lens, while supporters contended that the data should speak for itself, regardless of the ideologies of its discoverers. The implications of this discovery spread rapidly, first through underground scientific forums, then into broader academic circles. Paleoanthropologists struggled to reconcile this new evidence with the existing tree of human evolution. If these beings weren't Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, then what were they? More importantly, why had they vanished without leaving any apparent descendants? Some hypothesized that they might have been an isolated genetic offshoot, a society that bloomed in the desert and was later buried, both literally and figuratively, by the sands of time and geological upheaval. Others suggested that we had greatly underestimated the intellectual capabilities of early hominins, and that similar civilizations could be buried elsewhere, waiting to be found. Geologists were equally stunned. Analysis of the stone used in the construction of the chambers revealed a technique of rock cutting and bonding previously believed impossible without advanced metallurgy. The walls had been fused in a way that resisted erosion and seismic activity, even after hundreds of thousands of years. This called into question prevailing assumptions about the technological capabilities of early humans, or whatever species these beings represented. Not only were they able to conceptualize an underground city, but they also had the knowledge and means to make it last. The unearthed tools also introduced new variables. Among them were blades, chisels, and devices fashioned from materials not native to the region. This pointed to either long-distance trade routes or a level of mobility far exceeding what scientists had previously believed was possible for pre-modern hominins. Traces of manganese, obsidian, and even microscopic flecks of gold in their implements hinted at a broad understanding of materials and their applications. These were not mere hunter-gatherers, they were engineers, architects, astronomers, and artisans, intellectuals operating on a level that seemed incongruent with their time. The question that arose next was equally daunting. Why here? Why would such a sophisticated society arise in what is now one of the most arid and inhospitable places on Earth? Climate models had to be revisited, taking into account new sediment samples and fossilized pollen trapped in the ruins. It appeared that the Arabian Peninsula, during the period in question, was not a desert at all, but a lush, temperate zone with flowing rivers, abundant flora, and a favorable ecosystem. This revelation opened the door to the possibility that the cradle of early civilization might not have been solely confined to Africa or the Levant, but may have extended deep into what we now consider the barren heart of Saudi Arabia. The scientific community, while intrigued, quickly became polarized. Some institutions embraced the data, funding further research expeditions and offering platforms for the atheist researchers to present their findings. Others recoiled, questioning the validity of the carbon dating methods or the motivations behind the interpretations. The involvement of known secularists, some of whom had been vocal critics of religious institutions, only deepened the schism. Accusations flew back and forth, some accusing the researchers of fabricating evidence for ideological gain, others accusing conservative academic circles of trying to suppress a truth too destabilizing for current paradigms. What no one could deny, however, was the gravity of the discovery. The site quickly became one of the most studied pieces of land on Earth. Satellite data, thermal imaging, and even drone-mounted spectrometers were employed to scan the surrounding region. The area appeared to be part of a broader network, potentially the central hub of a much larger civilization that extended across what are now several national borders. Hidden beneath centuries of sediment and geological transformation, entire cities might still be waiting, untouched, whispering secrets from a time we never knew existed. Geneticists added another layer to the mystery when they sequenced DNA from bone fragments retrieved from the site. The genomes carried elements that didn't fit neatly into any known category. There were markers shared with Homo erectus, Denisovans, and modern humans, but also entirely unique strands, unaccounted for in current databases. If verified, this genetic mosaic could indicate not just a new hominin species, but perhaps even a hybrid lineage, one that developed separately and achieved a level of complexity lost to history through catastrophe, climate change, or conquest. One of the more esoteric findings came from a series of orrery-like devices, geared stone instruments arranged in patterns that corresponded roughly to known planetary orbits. The precision of these devices, made without metal or written blueprints, stunned physicists and astronomers alike. If these devices functioned as early astronomical calculators, they would not only predate the Antikythera mechanism by hundreds of thousands of years, but suggest that deep astronomical knowledge was cultivated by a group completely separate from the Western canon of scientific development. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on atheists discovering this? Do you expect major scientific backlash? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.